and welcome to Wide Angle this week. Our guest on the show, the JDU leader Pavan Varma, former diplomat and now also an author. Of course, his latest book is on Adi Shankaracharya, the philosopher or saint, depending on which side of the religious spectrum you're on. One of the biggest conversations taking place in the country today is on the need to reclaim the ethos, the philosophy of Hinduism from people who want to attempt to codify it and tell us all how to behave, to take it away from the rituals that are being imposed upon us and once again go back to its philosophical roots. Pavan Varma's latest book hopes to do that. Thank you very much for joining us and discussing Adi Shankaracharya. I started off by saying that, you know, depending on where you are in your religious conscious, Adi Shankaracharya is a philosopher. Some people say he's a saint, but somebody who essentially tried to tell every Hindu of the need for a wider understanding of the world, of communities, of cultures, of even other religions.
Well, to my mind, I see him as primarily one of the greatest philosophical minds India has produced and perhaps globally. I don't necessarily see a contradiction between a philosopher and a saint. One has to do with understanding the rigorous cerebral logic that he propounds as a philosopher. And the second is that precisely for that reason, since he's elaborating on Hinduism, and his own life was a remarkable life as an ascetic, to see him also as a saint. So there's no contradiction between the two.
Okay. So one of the challenges, I mean, I'm asking you not just as an author but also as a political leader, is in the current climate that we inhabit in India and indeed across the world, where faith has become a huge polarizing factor instead of something that includes and brings people together. Where does a book like yours fit into that spectrum?
I think that if you understand Hinduism and particularly understand the grand edifice of thought, the intellectual energy in terms of a philosophical vision that underpins Hinduism, then the scope for the brittleness that comes with asserting Hinduism only as a certain kind of prescriptive faith is bound to be dispelled. Because Hinduism by definition is dialogic, it's eclectic, and it's inclusive. That is how Hinduism has evolved over the millennia, and that is why it's called Sanatan Anadi Anant. So given this philosophical basis to Hinduism, any attempts to hijack it, to narrower, more brittle forms of expression need to be challenged. And who can challenge it? You cannot challenge those who are self-appointed evangelists of the religion, and very often their zeal is matched only by their ignorance of the real tenets of Hinduism. You cannot challenge them, I assure you, by a cosmopolitan rootlessness. You have to immerse yourself in your own religion as a Hindu. I am proud to be a Hindu, but you have to immerse yourself in Hinduism to then draw out from it what are the essential elements that counter this form of ultra-right-wing inflexibilities. Mahatma Gandhi did the same. Unlike Jawaharlal Nehru, he wasn't a self-proclaimed agnostic. He was a deeply religious man, but he went deep into religion and from there drew the inspiration of a secular respect for all faiths. So where Hinduism is concerned, and we all Hindus at some point are particularly susceptible to it, and the reason for it is Hinduism does not have one pope, it does not have one church, it does not have one prescribed ritual, it does not have one book, it does not have one kind of mandatory congregation. So it is a way of life. So when it's a way of life, while that's a strength also, very often practicing Hindus feel that they are Hindus but know very little or are becoming more adrift from the great philosophy that underlies it, which is in fact the foundation of Hinduism.
So you talked about brittleness just now. I want to just take that up a little more because, as you said, there are politicians, political parties, the right wing, who are attempting to impose a codification. If I don't do something that you like, you immediately say I am anti-Hindu. If I disagree with your food habits, or if I disagree with a particular ritual that you might want to enforce. Let's just take Diwali and air pollution, for example. You talk about air pollution and you become anti-Hindu. And we're trying to say, no, I mean, the fact of the matter is my Hinduism or my practice doesn't exclude me from the religion just because I don't follow the tenet that you want me to follow. That's a challenge. And in these political times, it becomes even more brittle to uphold.
So the counter to that is to understand that, look at the corpus of Hindu belief. Starting with the Upanishads, which is one of the foundational documents of Hinduism. No one knows who wrote the Upanishads. No one has an actual count of how many Upanishads were written. We have some of the great Upanishads. But after the Upanishads, and based on that, you have the Brahma Sutras. In the Brahma Sutra, all commentaries will mention their point of view, but include in it, as part of the commentary, opponent. In other words, bringing in a counterpoint of view as part of the commentary. More interestingly, in Hinduism, there are 6 schools of Hindu philosophy. The Nyaya, the Vaisheshik, the Sankhya, the Yoga, the Purv Mimamsa, the Uttar Mimamsa. Each of them have a different take on Hinduism, although all of them are involved in the same quest. Not necessarily for God. In fact, 5 of these systems, you'll be surprised, are atheist. Technically. They are not looking for God. They are looking for what is the ultimate reality. What is this cosmos about? They are paramarthik chintaks. What is our role in it? Who are we? So that is the quest. Now just to complete, I'll take 10 seconds only more to say this. Now within these 6 systems, there are differences, but they are all Hindus. And then we have schools like the Charvak school, who are also Hindus, but they say the Vedas are lies. They say that the only thing that matters is what is immediately verifiable, and therefore they are the most tenacious materialists. So we have the Charvak school. Then we have the Tantric school, which is an offshoot of all of the other schools of Hinduism, which have their own prescribed system of ritual. In other words, Hinduism itself, as a corpus of thought, incorporated many views and many practices, many beliefs, many ways of trying to reach the same goal. Take for instance, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Marg is one path. Gyan Marg, of which Adi Shankaracharya was the proponent, is one marg. Karma, Kand, or the path of karmic duty, is one path. So Hinduism allows many paths leading towards the same. Otherwise, how can you have a religion where in the past great sages have said, Ekam Satya Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti. There is one truth, but wise people call it by different names. Otherwise, how can you have great sages millennia ago say, Udar Charitanam Vasudev Kutumbakam. For the broad-hearted, the entire world is a family.
So, sir, you said 2 things. One is that Hindus today are adrift. And the second is that, this is not about atheism. I can say that people who claim or who are proud of being secular Hindus are accused of being non-believers. It's happened with me personally as well. How does that lead to this sense of being adrift? How does this feed off each other?
Because those who are being so accused cannot come up with a sufficiently convincing counter to those who are making the accusation. For that, you need to go deep into Hindu philosophy.
Right.
I can counter anyone who says that because I'm secular, I'm not Hindu, by actually quoting chapter and verse of Hinduism.
But I may not be able to do that. So
therefore read Adi Shankaracharya, my book.
Of course.
My point is that.
Yeah.
My point is that you have a religion which says to you, Ano Bhadraha Kritavo Yantu Vishvata, let good thoughts come from all sides. It is not a prescriptive religion. The grand strength of Hinduism is that it's not. So you must counter it.
Yeah. So, sir, I can't help but ask you about the political significance of your book as well. We're going into an election year, and we're looking at all political parties, including the JDU, evolve strategies to appeal to the voters, obviously to form alliances, to also, in a sense, reclaim this narrative of religion from the BJP and its other alliance partners as well. Now, where does a book like yours fit into the political narrative right now?
Well, I did not write it keeping the political context exclusively in mind. I think Adi Shankaracharya is truly one of the towering figures of Hinduism. Born in the 8th century in Kerala in Kaladi, he took Samadhi or passed away in Kedarnath. He died at the age of 32. It's a fascinating life where he traversed the length and breadth of this great land, not once but thrice. And in the course of those 32 years, not only wrote very extensively on Hinduism, put together a structure of philosophical thought, perhaps unparalleled for its rigor and its consistency in terms of logic. He also set up the 4 mutts, Sringeri in the south, Dwarka, Puri, and in Joshimath, which is the civilizational map of India. So I did that life of his journey from Kerala to Kedarnath. I didn't write it in my study. I traveled personally. And I describe his life as a personal journey in the book. So that is one context of it. Certainly the book has a relevance in the ongoing debate in my country, which also has political manifestation, which is the current situation where we have self-appointed evangelists, backed or not backed by political forces, who are saying to others who are also Hindus that this is the only way you can prove yourself to be a Hindu. To them, this book is, I think, a very fitting answer.
So these self-appointed evangelists are also preying on a sense of persecution that, for whatever reason, they feel. Now, this is an 80% Hindu country. The constant argument is that Hindus have been ignored. They've been ignored by previous political parties. Appeasement has led to this sense of persecution. But do you think that there is value in that argument, that a majority faith can feel that sense of persecution?
First of all, I don't think Hinduism is under any threat. It's too great a religion. In fact, it is Sanatan, as I said.
So why this narrative?
The narrative is because I think, if one is objective, there has been a growing sense over the last few decades among a great many Hindus, not all of whom are necessarily communal, that there have been politics of appeasement for electoral dividends in this country carried too far.
Right.
Now, that could be an opinion, but it should not lead to hatred. It should not create divisiveness. It should not encourage violence. It should not become a means of demonizing a community, because Hinduism essentially is based on a respect for all faiths and all beliefs unto themselves. Therefore, while there could be a sense of discontent, even anger against appeasement politics, the need to resurrect Hinduism, or the way to resurrect it best, is to project it for the great edifice of thought it is.
But the question is, does it need resurrection if it is this great edifice of thought?
Yeah, it needs that resurrection if those who are Hindus are adrift from it. In other words, if I were to ask a practicing Hindu, who is Adi Shankaracharya? They would say, the name may strike a bell. When did he live? I doubt very much if most people will know it. What did he write? What did he believe in? They wouldn't know. So, in that sense, when we are adrift from some of the remarkable thought processes of Hinduism, we become particularly vulnerable to those who are seeking to speak on our behalf.
So you talk about self-appointed evangelists, without obviously taking any names. Your political party is in an alliance with the ruling national party, the BJP, in your home state. Allegations have flown back and forth in the last 4 years. We've seen the narrative on minorities in the country. We've seen the narrative on food practices, cultural practices, dress codes, you name it. And they have been polarizing in the wider national debate. Someone with your own views, as you have elaborated for us over here, how do you reconcile your own sense of inclusiveness, your own sense of tolerance, your political party's positions on these issues with the alliance you're in?
We have not the slightest hesitation, even though now JDU is part of the NDA, in condemning any attempt at communal divisiveness. Not the slightest hesitation, and we shall continue to do so. Many people forget that the JDU's party's constitution has the word secular mentioned 3 times only on the first page. And by that is essentially meant not secularism, which is almost used as a word of abuse now by its critics. It means respect for all faiths. And that is a very guiding principle for the JDU, at least it is for me. And there is no doubt about it. So, a respect for all faiths, an acceptance of plurality, a tolerance which goes beyond tolerance to inclusion as part of the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, which is that of my country, is a given. In
for
at least in my worldview, for my party. And where we need to differ with other allies in our coalition, we will differ on this question.
Does it not shake the foundation of the coalition?
I don't believe the coalition is based on merely uniformity of thinking on every subject. No coalition can be based on that. Every party, whether in this coalition or another, comes with a certain worldview, an ideological point of view. That point of view needs to be asserted where necessary, even where your own coalition partners' practices are concerned. And we will continue to speak about it.
Right.
And in that sense, there is a congruence between my belief and what the JDU's beliefs are.
So, taking that little forward, on the weekend, you made a statement about, in politics, frankly, anything is possible. And in an election year, perhaps even more than anything is possible, if that can even be conceived of. But what are the JDU's plans? I mean, how do you think, I know we're shifting tracks, but it's a question I want to ask you. How do you think you're going to position yourselves in the elections going forward from here? There's been statements, there's been concern about the alliance. Apart from these issues, there have been other concerns, economic concerns as well that Bihar has. Where's the reconciliation? What's going to happen?
I like the way, Maya, you've seamlessly shifted from Adi Shankaracharya to current national politics, and I must compliment you for it. In my view, there are certain issues on which we have been forthcoming. For instance, in terms of how seats may be divided in future, right now talks have not been held in Bihar. We believe that the JDU, as in the past, has been the larger party, which is why even in the NDA government that exists as of now, the Chief Minister is Mr. Nitish Kumar, as it was in the past. And seat divisions were also done on this basis. In fact, after we made this statement of the position of the JDU in Bihar, Mr. Sushil Modi, who is a senior leader of the BJP, the Deputy Chief Minister, immediately reiterated the position, saying that while Prime Minister Narendra Modi may be the leader of the BJP or of the country nationally, in Bihar the face of the NDA is Mr. Nitish Kumar. That is what we have said at the moment.
And yet your political opposition in the state is saying if Mr. Nitish Kumar is the face of the NDA and the party, why does he feel the need as an alliance partner to ask for a package for Bihar, for example? Why doesn't he just, I mean, why doesn't it happen easily? Tejasvi Yadav has gone on record saying, but he's in the alliance, so what is this
I
complaint?
think
What is this
that
crowd?
it shows an ignorance of how politics or governments work, is that if you become an alliance partner, automatically all the sluice gates open and your entire wish list is fulfilled. But certainly we are going to speak up on the fulfillment of the promise of the package. Much of it is cometh through and some is remaining. On the question of special category status for Bihar, we were the first party to mobilize this demand on the basis of facts, figures and reasoning. To have an all-party unanimous resolution passed by the assembly. To have lakhs of signatures on a petition asking for this. Because I ask you a question, Maya. It's not only Bihar, which is the least developed state, for reasons beyond its control. They go back in history. Take Bihar, take Jharkhand, take West Bengal, take Odisha. These are states with the maximum number of people and also the maximum number of poverty. They're caught in a vicious cycle of poverty or under debt burdens. No country can develop in compartments, that one part of India continues to develop faster and the other languishes. So some form of affirmative action for states which are being left behind as part of conscious policy.
But sir,
that is why we ask for special, and we will continue to ask for it. So, Mr. Nitish Kumar has articulated it more than once.
As have other alliance partners, Chandrababu Naidu has made his position on something like this also very clear. Can this be seen as perhaps a moving away of the JDU from the BJP? Do you think there's potential going forward where parties like Mr. Naidu's or Nitish Kumar's or whatever, Mamata Banerjee, whoever they may be, can they come together in some sort of a third front alliance coalition? Is that a probability?
We would be very happy if on the question of affirmative action for states which are languishing behind economically and need that help, cutting across political affiliations. The whole belt, if the leaders come together, that would be something we welcome because it's a legitimate demand.
Correct.
Now, are we going to follow the pattern that Mr. Chandrababu Naidu followed for reasons which are also localized in Andhra Pradesh?
Right.
At this moment, no. But we will continue to reiterate a demand which we believe is legitimate and in the interests of the people of Bihar.
So anything's possible, basically, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that Mr. Nitish Kumar, when he took the decision to break with the RJD and the Mahagathbandhan and make a government with the support of the BJP as part of an NDA government, in his first press conference, even as he emerged from the Raj Bhavan, he said, I'm taking this decision in a certain contextual background in the interests of Bihar. Those are paramount. Mr. Nitish Kumar has been a transformational leader for Bihar. As you know, I don't have to give you facts and figures for it. So that will remain in the focus of the JDU. And we will continue to assess to what extent our legitimate demands are being met in an alliance where the NDA is in power at the center.
Right, Mr. Pavan Varma, thanks very much for speaking to us. I know you said that I seamlessly moved from your book to politics, but bringing it back to your book, I know that this is apparently being translated into 8 languages, right?
Yes, this book will be out in Hindi next month, this month in fact, and it will also be published in Malayalam, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, Bengali and Gujarati. So,
more reason for the country's majority Hindu population to not be adrift and come back to an understanding of the faith, moving away from the self-appointed evangelists who are trying to impose, whether it's politically or whether it's in terms of faith.
You can only do it if you know what a great religion you actually represent.
Right, Pavan Varma, thanks very much for speaking to us. Thank you so much.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.